Hello, I'm your host, Jim McLean. Welcome back to another episode of More Than Pixels on a Screen, a spoilerific podcast brought to you by the Banterflix movie review website. This week, I'm joined by Adam Neeson.
Evening, Jim.
Evening, Adam. So this week, we're going to be talking about a film of your choice. We're going to be talking about Kevin Smith's Clerks, a film that you judge to be more than pixels on a screen. Last week, we had you on talking about The Flash, a film you very adamantly said was not more than pixels on a screen. So do you want to very quickly, before we are going to play a clip and then we'll get into, in our typical rambly, giggly, silly way, talk about the film, but do you want to give a bit of setup to our listeners as to why you've picked this film and why you judge it to be more than pixels on a screen?
Clerks is important to me because whenever I discovered it when I was like 13, 14, 15, it showed that you and a group of friends can make a movie for a low amount of money and it can get spread across the world. But
also give the worst advice ever about how to gather that money together. But we'll come back to this during the discussion of the film.
Yes. And then also work with a sex pest. But it showed me that, because I always liked movies but never thought, I could make a movie. Mm-hmm. And then here's a movie that is people talking like I do with my friends, and that's the concept of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's and Kevin Smith, for all of his faults,
we will, I'm sure, discuss this.
And all of his, missteps in the movie industry and being a pop culture guy, he is a huge inspiration to me and many of those auteurs from the 90s, with your Tarantinos and your Rodriguez's and your Jim Jarmusch's and your Spike Lee's, of people that came onto the scene and, stepped out of the 80s and brought into the 90s pretty much cinematic grunge, back to basics filmmaking that showed human beings on their most basic level and showing that can be interesting, or that can be funny, that can be serious. Mm-hmm. And I just love Kevin Smith as
listeners. Adam's wiping away a wee tear there.
I just love this man. I love Kevin Smith for being my
uncle.
My name's Adam Smith. His granny's actually an apple. I love him for not opening my eyes fully.
Forcefully?
Like Clockwork Orange. That's how it felt watching Jensen Ball reboot. Opening my eyes to a world of cinema that just hadn't experienced before. And I'm sure I would have got there eventually. People like Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola and, all of my heroes now. The thought of watching like French New Wave movies when I was 14, I was like, ugh, boke. Whereas now I'd rather have that over Clerks.
Oh, okay. We'll come back. We'll pull on this thread later.
But the seed was Clerks.
Yeah.
To what I've grown into now as, a filmmaker, as an enthusiast, as a reviewer, you have to have Clerks to begin with for young Adam Neeson to grow into the man he is today. A crayon-eating...
Listen to the previous podcast.
Silly man who, has a wealth of knowledge, but is just bundling this human sack of fart jokes.
Yeah. And aren't we glad of the person you are?
Wow.
Well, somebody is. I am. That's why I enjoy your company. So with that, you've perfectly set the scene, so let's play a clip of the movie.
You sucked that guy's dick?
Yeah, how do you think I knew that he...
Wait, but you said you only had sex with 3 different guys. You never mentioned him.
Because I never had sex with him.
You sucked his dick.
We went out a few times. We never had sex, but we fooled around.
Oh, my God. Why did you tell me you only had sex with 3 different guys?
Because I did only have sex with 3 different guys. That doesn't mean I didn't just go with people.
Oh, my God. I feel so nauseous.
I'm sorry, Dante. I thought you understood.
I did understand. I understood that you had sex with 3 different guys, and that's all you said.
Please calm down.
How many?
Dante.
How many dicks have you sucked?
Go.
How many?
Right, shut up a second and I'll tell saw you. Jesus. I didn't freak out like this when you told me how many girls you fucked.
This is different. This is important. How many? Well?
Something like 36?
What? Something like 36?
What were you boys?
Wait, what is that anyway? Something like 36. Does that include me?
37.
I'm 37?
Going to class.
Oh my God. 37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
So that's a clip of Clerks. 37 dicks, Adam.
In a row?
I rewatched this specifically when you picked it because I have seen Clerks umpteen times. I can't remember when I first seen it. I know it'd been my teenage years, maybe not as young as you, because my cinematic awakening, we had a caravan in, not you and I, but my parents had a caravan in Clocky, and over the summer, during the day, we'd just spend pretty much all daylight hours playing football, jumpers for goalposts, football, and then a little bit of GoldenEye, well, quite a bit of GoldenEye in the N64, and then we started to watch movies, so I'd watch stuff like Goodfellas, Clerks, and just various films people had, and
All on tape?
yeah,
boy.
all on tape, and just fallen in love with Clerks because it was crude. There was people talking, I'm repeating what you say, people relating, people talking in a way that I get, and having similar sense of humor, like the whole discussion about Star Wars, and kind of the workers on Star Wars. They were actually innocent, they were just hired to do a job, all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, I kind of talk like that. I wouldn't have necessarily had that moment where I've never, like you are a filmmaker, you've made quite a few shorts. I've never had the courage to take the plunge, but I used to watch like Edgar Wright's Spaced and go, if I made something, that's exactly what I would want to make. So in my head I go, don't need to make it. Edgar, you've done it for me. That's the kind of thing I would want to make. Don't need to do it anymore. Like the clubbing scene or the bit where they're playing with the air guns, that's probably what I would do. But I love Clerks. Now there's a specific reason why I rewatched it. Because, like I said, I love the film. But a couple of months ago on the TV show, we reviewed Clerks 3. And I know, I'm sure we will, like in typical, whenever you're on the pod style, we will ramble and kind of talk about the very opening sequence of Clerks, talk a little bit about the end, forget about everything in between. But I'm sure we'll talk about other films within Kevin Smith's back catalogue. And I did not enjoy Clerks 3. There was bits of it I found quite moving and profound, and we will talk about, I'm sure, Clerks 3. I don't really want to talk about Clerks 2, but I didn't enjoy it. And I was like, right, I don't want to come into the pod with that being my experience of Clerks, so let's go back and rewatch it. So it's on, I think, ITVX at the minute. You can watch it, although it's annoying, you can watch it 3 ads, because unfortunately, I don't know where, I've got rid of my Blu-ray player. It's somewhere. And I was going to either buy it online. I said, right, I've got it. Oh, I actually have it, DVD, Blu-ray. I've got a couple of versions on DVD, like the 10th anniversary and all that kind of stuff. But I just didn't have a DVD player to hand. So watched it. My lovely wife, bless her, it's not her type of film. I get that a couple of times, because there was a sequence where she goes, what happened to the guy in the bathroom? Just wait. I thought you'd seen this film before. It's like, just wait. You'll remember. But yeah, so I am a fan of Kevin Smith. I remember I have a friend of mine, Gary Gibson, God rest him, sadly passed away a couple of years ago. We would have, when we were at university together, would have sat and watched. He was my introduction to The Evening with Kevin Smith. And I just fell in love with those. Back in the days when those were 2 discs.
Yeah.
And you had the part 1 and part 2. I know we had definitely the first 2 on DVD. The third one, I don't think was ever released here. We sadly got it from the States and then realised, it doesn't play. So we had to then go out and get a multi-regional DVD player just to sit and watch it. And it's not as good, but it's quite funny if you want to hear stories about Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And things like that. But
Chuffa, isn't that where that story comes from?
Yeah. And the first one, An Evening with Kevin Smith, was when he talks about making Clerks. He'd went to films, didn't he? I'm trying to remember the story.
He went and then dropped out.
Yeah, he dropped out and decided to make Clerks. Because originally he was going to play Dante.
Yes.
That's why Dante has so many of the best lines, and then everything can last minute at all.
No, Randall.
Randall. Sorry, you're right. Apologies. He was originally going to play Randall. That's why he has so many of the best lines. And then it changed. And then he became the aforementioned Silent Bob with Jason Mewes. And Joe, rewatching the film, although I've seen it so many, you forget that they're not a big part. They're there.
Yeah.
They're there as kind of background and filler, and they kind of have a little bit near the end. And of course, I forgot. I know I've said I've seen this film so many times, I could act in it. I forgot that Silent Bob speaks in this film because I know it's become a thing where he will always have his little moments where he will speak in certain in the film. I think my favorite will always still be from Chasing Amy, that little sequence, because Chasing Amy and Dogma are probably my two favorite Kevin Smith movies. I still love Clerks, but I mean Dogma I just adore. And then there's just something I love about Chasing Amy. Again, it's probably that nostalgia, watching it with at the time with my friend Gary, and kind of thinking back to that. But watching those evenings with Kevin Smith talking about making the films, and his mantra was work in a video store, make sure you're in a position where you're up by the telephone, apply for credit cards. If anyone then phones, say, "Are you the manager? Does he earn such and such?" Yep. So they bankrolled this film largely through credit cards, and basically the hope that, fingers crossed, it all goes off. And then wasn't it to Sundance?
Yes, Sundance, yeah.
Sundance, where it became a bit of a Sundance darling.
It was picked up by Harvey Weinstein.
Yes. The less said about Harvey, the better. But, so 94 this was out. So this is coming up to next year will be an anniversary year for the film. So, I mean, it's rough and ready when you watch it, but there's a charm to that. And you still see there, I mean, we were talking before we started to record, we have a couple of actors popping up in playing different roles, and they're very clearly the same actors. Yeah. Playing the same roles. And so I don't really know how to I'm trying to think how we can kind of digress into this. So it's that sense of, with Clerks, when a filmmaker grabs your interest and shows you, like, it doesn't all have to be gangsters. It doesn't have to be, you've already touched on this, you've kind of done the whole podcast in, 3-4 minutes, where in the sense that a film doesn't have to necessarily have an antagonist, doesn't necessarily have, for high drama, you don't need to have the world to be at stakes. You don't need to have James Bond, superheroes, whatever it is. It can just be a day in a convenience store when you're not supposed to be here.
No.
I wasn't supposed to be here. And we've all done retail. I've had retail jobs. So I've been there. I've definitely been at Dante a few days. Just where, like, I don't care. I've probably been Randall a few times. I can imagine you being more of a Randall.
100%.
I can imagine you being, because you, at the minute, I'll not say where, but you work in a cinema. I can imagine you being a bit Randall at times.
I very much am. A man that does not care.
But you do care.
I do care, but I don't. See, I'm trying to give off that cool vibe. Is it because my hat?
Yeah.
I have a cap. Let me turn it backwards.
He's wearing his cap at a slant, listeners.
That was me turning it to the
He's
side.
wearing his cap at a slant, listeners. But I can imagine you being a Randall. Like, if someone's coming in looking for a movie recommendation, does that happen still in cinemas?
It does.
Is it usually a granny?
No, actually, because a guy came in yesterday when I was working, and I ripped his ticket, and it was for The Flash, and he says, "Is this a good show, is it?" And I says, "Absolutely not." As he walked in. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not going to fucking bother you up.
Donald.
Duck?
No, Trump.
Oh.
You'd be more Donald if you're just walking about with no pants on.
You don't know what's under this table. Quack, quack. Yeah, I would give people movie recommendations, but the cinema that I work in, is mostly mainstream movies, and there's really many I would recommend to people.
Go to the QFT, mate.
Fuck, I wish.
Someone just keeps coming in and say, Why do people, when they come up to you to tell Adam, why don't they just walk out? And it's like, yeah, I keep telling them, there's a really good film starting about half an hour at QFT.
Anything good on? Yeah, Jules and Jim is on the QFT in about half an hour. You can probably make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a bit of a Randall when it comes to, but like you say, I'm also a bit of a Dante.
I would definitely class myself as more of a Dante
Mm.
in that sense. And I think it's Brian O'Halloran. Brian O'Halloran is perfect in that role
Uh-huh.
as just this. It's that sense of the entitlement of youth.
Mhm.
And I don't know now, depress me, Adam, how old are you?
30.
30. So I'm 40,
Mhm.
you're 30. Our youth is behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Our youth is behind us. And it's this sense that when you're younger, everything is important and it's all drama and melodrama in your life. And you've got the fact like Dante can't decide. He's got a girlfriend who's quite nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to improve him as a person. She wants him to go back to college. She brings him lasagna.
Mhm.
And yet, okay, she sucked 37 cocks
Who hasn't?
this morning. And we also have his ex who pretty much treated him like shit.
Mhm.
And it's, I would say we've all been there.
Well,
Not with 37 cocks, but that sense where you find yourself caught. It's like, oh, I'm with someone now. They're good for me, but this other person, were they great for me? And then you find yourself talking to them again and go, is this a mistake? Is this not? And all this kind of stuff. And just when you're young, this kind of naivety that your life is so important
Mhm.
and everything is just like everything else pales in comparison.
Mm.
You just want to go to those people, go, here, wait till like middle of the night, like 3:30, you have to get up just for a piss. It's gone are the days when you can sleep 8-9 hours, or when you get up out of a sofa, you go, oh, old man in the room here. I am grumpy in this. I'm a man child. I'm 40 physically, but mentally, I'm going through that bigism. I'm still eating crayons, that you were talking about in the previous pod. But I think that's what I love about the film. It's made by a young filmmaker who wants his voice to be heard, and it's very much his picture and the creation. Doesn't feel, and you were kind of saying you've watched a few documentaries about the making of the film. I've really just watched the film, a few interviews over the years, and the several interviews with Kevin Smith. I've seen him live twice.
Mhm.
I think when he played Dublin, but it feels like it's his vision for what he wanted to create, which I love. And it's that idea of a filmmaker interesting you and catching your interest. And I suppose it's then when you look back then at then the rest of his catalogue, probably the last film that Kevin Smith made, other than a voyeuristic kind of, what the fuck's this shit show, Yoga Hosers?
Mm.
Red State is probably the last time I can think of Kevin Smith made a film that I go, there's the filmmaker that when you made Clerks, I go, I fucking love that. A master of dialogue.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino-esque kind of dialogue. It is that kind of video shop guy, nerdy kind of chat. But he excels at doing dialogue about fuck all.
Mm.
And I think he talked about this. It's like, it's not dialogue to move the plot along, because that's not how people talk. It's just,
No.
as you alluded to earlier on, it's just people, literally a film, an hour and a half of people just chatting.
Hmm.
Just so happens there's a dead guy, there's a guy who really loves his gum,
Mm.
and there's a brief sequence at a funeral home.
Very brief.
Oh, well, not a funeral home, but I suppose at a wake, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, saying that, the characters at the time are these free loving, their importance in the world they don't know yet.
But they feel important.
Yeah, they feel important, and it kind
Like
of
Dante is literally like, I shouldn't be here today. Probably he would have spent the rest of that day doing absolutely fuck all, playing a bit of hockey. But for him at that time, I don't know, how old would you say they're meant to be? Like maybe 20s?
yeah.
20-year-olds. That is the most important thing for him in his life that day. And it's, shock and heaven behold that he should be prevented from doing that.
It's funny that Kevin Smith, for as much as we're like, oh, we love Kevin Smith, we can see his faults. And from Clerks to Clerks 2 to Clerks 3, it's funny that forever he sees himself as Randall when he is actually Dante.
Yeah.
And that kind of is the downfall of like Clerks 3, because he puts his own life story where he had a heart attack, he puts it into the Randall character in Clerks 3, when realistically it should have went to Dante. And
then it kind of then does go to Dante, if we don't want to spoiler that film.
Yeah, but it's like...
But in a sadder...
oh, fuck. But his, Kevin Smith didn't want to work in a convenience store anymore. He wanted a better life for himself. And then weirdly was like, I'm going to make yoga hosers. Like you said, like Red State is probably his last good film. I think throughout, I think that half of Tusk is incredible. I know it's my cup of tea, that body horror type of stuff. But then the stuff with Johnny Depp pretending to be a fucking French detective
with a penis for a nose
is genuine dog shit, and I wish that he never did that, because I think that that's an A24 movie, and I think that Tusk would have been seen.
It's never going to be an A24 film with Kevin Smith on board. I
know it's not, but I think that the concept there, if it was directed now by one of these new young up and comers, man gets turned into Walrus, people would have been like, "Fucking, this is the new Midsommar." You know what I mean? Like
Midsommar.
If it was an Ari Aster,
yeah,
like film, people were like, "Fuck, this is really
with
impressive."
Joaquin Phoenix as the Tusk, as the aforementioned Walrus.
Seen his balls and bows of it. I just think that he can't stop being Kevin Smith,
which is not a bad thing.
Do
you know what? Do you know, every time I find myself getting frustrated or annoyed with Kevin Smith, like when they made Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, or sorry, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, like there's a little bit in that film with Ben Affleck I love, and there's always a little nugget with Kevin Smith. You go, fuck yes, I love that. And I mean, that was the whole reconciliation between him and Affleck, and it's kind of like the sequel of sorts to Chasing Amy, and the conclusion for that. And you go, okay, I kind of love that, but then at the same time, just lay off the weed, Kevin, because he then wraps it all up, and it's like, oh, fuck it, and then it was done. Yeah. It's like he's almost like he's interested in that bit, then he loses interest with the actual film, and go, oh, yeah, fuck it, that happens, and that's how it resolves itself. And you don't get that in early Kevin Smith films. There's still a fuck it attitude, as like, I'm going to make the film I want to make. And then you find yourself going, oh, but Kevin, I want you to make Dogma again. I want you to make Chasing Amy. I know isn't he re-releasing the one with Jersey Girl? He's re-released, or there's a new cut of Jersey Girl.
There's a new cut, yeah.
Is coming out, which I actually didn't mind Jersey Girl. I think it has a few flaws. It's not a great film, but it actually has a bit of heart.
Yeah, it's his last, like, hurrah. After doing, like, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where it was all just silly cartoon fart jokes, it was a bit of a return to form as the Jersey guy that we knew. That was.
I think the J-Lo stuff is a bit. It's obviously important to the narrative, but I think it's also it's the problem with the film, if that makes sense. All the stuff with J-Lo is that, really?
Yeah, it's kind of the, if you didn't know at the time about Ben Affleck and J-Lo, even though they're back together now, weirdly.
Yeah.
If you didn't know all of that history, you might go in and just be like, I didn't even know J-Lo was in this. Yeah. Whereas at the time, it was kind of like Jennifer. It was a story that eclipsed the actual movie itself.
And I'm trying to think back at the post. She's front and center in the poster, isn't she? That's marketing men and women, probably.
Isn't the poster Ben Affleck has his arms folded, and then like the little girl has her arms folded?
You're right. I think she is somewhere in the poster, because probably someone has said we need J-Lo in the poster somewhere.
What's the poster for Maid in Manhattan? Isn't it like her big floating head over New York as if she's going to invade it?
I love how we've, like, 2 minutes. Let's talk about Clerks. Let's talk about everything else. But the point I was making, I find myself at times getting frustrated with Kevin Smith when you hear him talking about, when you see Tusk, And Tuscan, come back to that point, it's like, it's filmed. There is elements I'll give you interesting, and then it's like, oh, fuck it. That's how it all resolves itself. And there's no real attempt to do anything. Then you get Yogerhauser, and then we know we're going to get Moose Jaws, which I'm intrigued about, but I'm not getting my hopes about.
No.
I'm not going to get hopes up because it's going to be that Jay & Silent Bob reboot, Clerks 3. And then when you hear him talking, you go, well, do you know what? After I had my heart attack, I just decided I want to make the films I want to make, and I want to have my mates around me. And you go, you know what? I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I also go, you were, and I would say that you were a really interesting filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, and it's not a criticism, I don't think all that, particularly when you look at Clarks, Clarks? Fuck's sake, Clarks.
New pair of shoes.
It's Clark Griswold. When you look at Clerks, you go, there's an interesting filmmaker who, it's that sense of going, the cockiness and going, I'm gonna make a fucking film that I want to make. Don't necessarily agree with the financing for it. Just, with everything going on, listeners, just be wary. I wouldn't agree with his motives, because you don't know if you're going to make that or you're going to make it. Because he's talked about himself before. Like, if it all went wrong, he was fucked.
Yeah, he's just going to pay it off for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he would be fucked and be like, I think he always jokes about, it's like, every so often be like, do you want to roll out? Do you want to watch a film that fucked us? It's like, yeah, I get that. I mean, but it's that cockiness and that, not the right way, that sense of entitlement, that sense of, I have my voice, I want it to be heard. It all comes through in Clerks in a positive way. Mm-hmm. And the energy comes through there. And yes, there's a sense of, that he's got a lot of his mates around. Like Jason Mewes, I think he met him at a youth centre.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's exactly, I want to put you on the screen. Mm-hmm. Another thing, actually, just a tangent thing. Clerks 3, do it ruin Clerks 3 for me? I said this at the time off air, didn't say in the TV show. Jason Mewes has had his teeth fixed.
It's the worst.
And it's just like, it's fine. They're actually, like, when you hear him being interviewed,
yeah,
it's fine. Or something you hear him. When you see him being interviewed or anything, like when they're doing the tours, it's fine. But for Jay, it doesn't make sense.
No.
And it's like, it's just, I know that's such a small hill I'm prepared to die on, but it doesn't.
If they pointed it out, if they'd been like, oh, we went to rehab and I got new teeth,
yeah,
it would kind of be funny.
Yeah.
But he's clearly self-conscious about it. So really doesn't really want to be like, because he kind of talks with a whistle.
Yeah.
He's the creepy old man from fucking, I'm coming to get you, Chris.
Yes.
Snoochie poochies,
so
y'all.
That was the small hill I'm prepared to die on. But come back to, I love the fact that those two characters who've become pop culture icons in their own right, I maybe have made this point before on the pod. My lovely wife did not know that Kevin Smith and Silent Bob were the same people. To the point where she's like, oh, Silent Bob. We were watching Jay & Silent Bob reboot, and she went, God, Silent Bob's lost. She's going very Marty Scorsese. That's what I love about my wife. God, Silent Bob, he's lost a lot of weight, like the director. And then when you see them then on screen, God, Kevin Smith's lost quite a bit of weight too. It's like, am I the same person? I just didn't know that.
It's funny that me and you are like, we both have encyclopedic minds for like actors and like backstories and stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're both with women that are just like, what's that? That's a car. You've seen it before.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So I love my lovely wife. I love you too, Jim. Like, all right. So, yes. So, entitlement is maybe not the right sense, but someone who has the passion and the energy and the confidence to get his voice out there, it all comes through in Clerks. And they feel like they're wasting time being there. Randall definitely in the video shop. I mean, I just love the fact that he can't even be arsed coming to work on time. And then it's like the sequence where like he comes to the door and the girl's waiting. I forget what movie she's waiting for, but it's like, say The Flash, just because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. And she's like, sorry, just The Flash, because we talked about it in the last podcast. And she's like, I've been waiting here half an hour, I'm going to get it. I bet you 20 quid, I'm going to get it before you. It's like, all that stuff I love. And I love the little interchanges between the two. And I know it kind of culminates in the finale with Randall basically, because at the start of the film you feel like it's the adult in the room is Dante, but by the end of the film it's Randall is the adult in the room, basically saying, you know, stop feeling like you're such an entitled prick.
Yeah.
You work in a convenience store, blah 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 blah. You've got two girls. You've got one girl that absolutely loves you, but yet you do not give a shit. Dante's not a nice guy.
No.
When you bring, and I think that's, the more you rewatch Clerks, the more I find just going, Dante's not a nice guy. And even, it's weird that in Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, he becomes much more front and center. And it's meant to be, like, particularly in Clerks 3, it's like you're meant to really root for him to get back with his dead girlfriend.
I know. It's weird in Clerks 3 that...
Do you notice how we haven't really talked about Clerks 2?
Well, I'll say this. Clerks 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Really?
Yes. And I think it's probably because I get into Kevin Smith on the release of Clerks 2. I remember seeing, it was Empire magazine had a whole piece, and it was like the Fusc universe, and it showed you every piece of it. And I was going to America, and remember when you would go to, like, on a holiday, and it'd be like, you got to go to NPO and get yourself a magazine for the plane. And the day before I went away, MTV used to do movie stuff, and they had a profile on Kevin Smith, and they showed a clip from Mallrats where it was Silent Bob dressed as Batman swinging through the mall, and then it showed you them beating up the Easter Bunny, and I was like, "What's this? The 6th grade?" And then had the whole magazine and was able to read up on every movie before I even seen any of it, so I had it all pictured in my head. And then whenever I was in America, Clerks 2 was being heavily promoted. So I think also being 13, I was like fucking, you know, this movie about people that work at a convenience store, and, you know, on the wall it says "eat pussy," and I was like, that's the funniest thing in the world. And then also, it's not in black and white, so automatically my brain was like, well, this is the better one. So I can understand why people don't like Clerks 2. I think it's hilarious. Kelly and the Stud is one of the funniest fucking things.
Do you know what? I'll be honest, I need to go back and rewatch it, because I don't think I've seen Clerks 2 in a long, long time.
Give it a rewatch, Jim. It's really funny.
I want to put it out there. It's like a few of Kevin Smith's films. I don't hate it. It's just that sense of, this is what you do. It's kind of, because I know a couple of weeks' time we're going to have Indiana Jones out in cinema, and I always remember Steven Spielberg talking about if he ever, this was ironically enough for the release of Crystal Skull, where he talked, if I'm going to go back and revisit Indiana Jones, it has to be popcorn with whipped cream on top, and a cherry. It has to be a really great reason to go back and revisit these characters. And I just thought Clerks 2, it kind of did a, like, Sam Raimi Evil Dead 2 kind of thing. It moved them on. I get that, but it didn't really do anything that much, which I will commend Clerks 3 for trying to do something, and it does something a bit meta where Dante wants to make a film and decides to make a film about working in the shop. So is he technically making Clerks? Then it comes weird. I know I said we wouldn't spoiler, but then as he's dying, he somehow watches Clerks and Clerks 2, and you're like, does that really work?
Yeah.
But that's another thing. That's another tangent not a thread I'll pull on. But Clerks 2 didn't grab me. I probably laughed at it, but it's probably in the same way that I laughed at Jen Silent Bob Strike Back.
Jen Silent Bob Strike Back is funny.
Do you know the only thing, I mean, I do love, like, I am the Click Commander, isn't that it?
Yeah.
I am the Click Commander, and the Wes Craven joke, I just love.
Yeah.
You're not even trying anymore now, Wes.
There's a great joke with...
And then I love the fact that they're in Scream 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gus Van Sant, when they're doing fucking...
How do you like them apples? Okay.
Applesauce, bitch. But he's like, Gus, do you want me to try it again? He's counting his money, and he's like...
No, it's fine.
Whatever you want, Ben. funny.
I do like that. What is it? Goodwill Hunting 2, Hunting Season?
Hunting season. He shoots him with a shotgun.
Okay, I'll give you. I think Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back probably hit me at the right time.
Mhm.
Right age group, right demographic, silly fart humor,
Mhm.
like fast food makes girls fart.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, watching it now, it's probably, no, I still laugh because I watched it not so long ago. It's then when you get like Jay and Silent Bob reboot and you go, it's not that funny. It's a bit laboured. Do you really need to have your daughter in it? I get it. It's nice to have your family around you. But then I counter that by saying I do love the stuff with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And that little bit of dialogue to camera.
It's funny that he was able to make stoner movies when he wasn't a stoner.
Yeah.
And then when he became a stoner, they became shit.
Yeah, just too stonery. I think it's, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff with Kevin Smith you can kind of descend and talk about, because I know we've mentioned him and Affleck kind of had had a bit of a falling out, and they made amends. And that's why I think that worked, that little sequence in Jay and Silent Bob reboot. But Clerks 3, I remember watching Clerks 3 for the first hour and going, I haven't laughed once.
Yeah.
And rewatching Clerks, God knows how many times last night when I went to rewatch it for this, I was like, I find myself still laughing, like the 37 dicks, the guy with the lungs, like, this is your lung, and it's like you think he's going to be an anti-tobacco guy, but no, he's just trying to sell some gum. And then they're all throwing fucking cigarettes and shit at Dante, and then they all leave, and there's that one guy who goes, pack of cigarettes. And the aforementioned sex with the dead guy. And I'm trying to think of there's another one I fucking love. It's just laugh out loud, and no matter how many times I watch it, it's still funny. And I still think even through showing it to audiences now and younger viewers now, I don't mean like 2 or 3 year olds, but like 16-year-olds now, it's still relevant. Yes, there's things like, oh, why don't they just use their phone, or, you know, something I don't know, whatever kids do to TikTok, TikTok or something. Like, why can't they just talk on Facebook? But I still think they'll get it, because it's coming back to the key thing I love about Clerks is that that self-entitlement of youth.
Yeah.
And it comes through, it's from the filmmaker, I think, in a positive way, I want to clarify, but also from what you're seeing on screen.
Yeah. And it's relatable in the sense of, you know, if you work in a convenience store.
Have you ever worked in a convenience store?
I did. I worked in a convenience store for 5 years. And
What convenience store?
I don't want to say because I fucking hate it.
Go on.
No, because I really like it is a
Spar?
It's a
Eurospar?
Conversation me and my therapist have had plenty of times. So
I'm not pulling that thread.
I don't bring it up. I'm having a mental breakdown, Jim. And the day I quit, I watched Clerks, because I never watched it when I worked there. I tried watching it once, and I was like, it's too close to the bone. I don't find this funny, because it's like I've come off work and I'm watching these work, and it's like, this is the fucking same. The day I quit my job,
firemen feel the same. That's why they won't watch like Backdraft and stuff like that.
That's why they sit in the cold.
they like the thing.
I watched Clerks the day I quit, and it was the most cathartic laughter I've ever had watching a movie, because it was close to the bone, but in a good way. And it's probably because I was in a good mood, because I just fucking quit my job. And I could see Kevin Smith, you know, leaving his job to go work in Hollywood. He, I could see why he went back to the well. That's the name of the documentary. Because he had worked for so many years away from Clerks, and probably went back and revisited Clerks, and also had that same feeling of, fuck, I remember whenever I was young and I just had my friends and I want to bring them back again. And I know Dante and Randall do turn up in Dogma and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and stuff.
Very briefly in Dogma, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange cameos. It's Clerks 2 is, you know, him coming back and putting him in a job that he never worked in, which is weird too. So it's kind of why it feels as disconnected for some people. And then why the third movie, he kind of relates it back to his heart attack because it can become more human again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I think he had talked for years about Clerks 2. I think this is my thing with it. Kevin Smith, before Clerks 2 was made, I remember on those evening with Kevin Smith, he kind of talked, oh yeah, we're going to do Clerks 2 and this is what I'm working on. And it's always that sense of you spent all these years and it's that what you came up with. There's nothing really, yeah, it's funny, but it's just fine. And then for years he talked about Clerks 3. I think if I remember right, he had threw out the script for Clerks 3 because him and, is it Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall, had fallen out a bit.
do you know the plot of it?
No.
It was Randall was excited to see a new superhero movie, and there was a flood in the town of Red Bank, and it completely destroyed the town. So while Randall is in the queue for this movie, in the parking lot, he starts his own society. He opens his own convenience store in the parking lot and starts his own society of people that live in this parking lot, and it's meant to be like community coming back together, and he's in charge of everyone, and it gives him his own self-worth. You know, like he's in charge of something.
Adam.
Yes, well,
Sounds shit.
it fucking sounds. You can understand why Jeff Anderson was like, "No, I'm not fucking doing that. That's his gig." So, yeah, like even with Clerks 1, it's meant to end with Dante dying, and you can see why somebody took him aside and said, "You need to take that out." Because it's the one part of Clerks where you're like, that's not based in any reality that you've written. You've written your heart and soul into this movie about you and your friends working in a convenience store.
Is it meant to be? There's he's shot, isn't that?
He's shot, yeah. And it's meant to be like a fable of, well, he wasn't meant to be there. If he wasn't there, he wouldn't have been shot.
Which would completely negate everything that. I don't think I said that word right. It would just make everything you've watched pointless, which is maybe almost more profound and sadder. But no, like you're kind of saying, and I kind of cut across you. It doesn't work.
No, it almost feels as if you'd watched Oliver Stone's talk radio, and whenever spoilers,
or like what's that one with Robert Pattinson? Remember Me?
Oh yeah, and it zooms out. It's fucking 9/11. Yeah. There's a fucking twist for you.
Oh, happy days. He's fine. Oh, he's made it.
I really enjoy my job as a window cleaner. Got a big job coming up.
When you say that, is it Family Guy?
Oh,
when they talk about when he takes on James Woods,
yeah,
he's like, I've come up with this great film. He's a window cleaner. He's just finished cleaning the windows on one of the first towers, and he sees the plane, and he's like, come on! You're like, oh, that's dark. But yeah, poor old Robert Pattinson. Remember Me?
Fuck.
At least we remembered the film
for that one thing. Yeah, I can't remember anything else in that movie. He rides a bike.
Yeah, and he's Robert Pattinson, and he doesn't sparkle.
And
sparkle.
He's not Batman.
No.
Where were we?
Clerks.
Clerks.
talk about the fact that, yeah, I remember reading that somewhere, that I think he talked about it in an evening with Kevin Smith, where he kind of said, like, originally Dante was going to die. And yeah, it doesn't, it's not that it doesn't work. I don't think it works in the sense of the film's tone and the film's humor. Like, you've got a guy, is it a child therapist, kind of looking for the perfect pack of eggs. To have that, then to go to that final revelation, it doesn't work. Also, the fact you have a woman fucking a dead guy, but hey, that's for laughs.
It's also one of those things where, I don't think the movie would have succeeded, because a lot of people, it kind of made its money back on VHS, and then they were like, oh, it's such a success, you can make Mallrats. And obviously, fucking the audience didn't come out for that.
No. Although I do love Mallrats.
It's fantastic.
Chocolate covered pretzel.
Michael Rooker's butt cheeks. The
back of a Volkswagen. I love the joke. He did her in a very uncomfortable place. Isn't it the back of a Volkswagen?
Yeah. Back of a Volkswagen. I'm going to propose to her when Jaws pops out of the water.
I love, but see that joke that the back of Volkswagen, it's like the fact they do it like 3 times. It's genius. And then you've got your guy who, he's in American History X as well, and he's in My Name is Earl.
Oh, fucking Ethan Suplee.
Yeah, he's fucking huge at that point. And
Who's playing the same character as Scott Mosier's character from Clerks.
Yeah.
Willem Black.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be the same character, and you're like, he beefed up on.
He Quirly beefed up, but now your guy's Quirly, he's lost a ton of weight now.
He's fucking buff.
He's a tank now.
He is.
Yeah.
What was he in? I seen recently. Babylon. He was in that. Good movie. I say. Going no, Jim. But Clerks though.
Yeah.
I think that it wouldn't have succeeded as much because people would have not rewatched it as much.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It really puts a dampener on the thing where it's like, oh, he's dead, cool. And it also, have you ever seen the deleted scene where he gets shot?
Mm-hmm.
It lingers so much on like Dante's dead body. It actually is a good piece of like cinema.
Yeah,
because it feels real.
It reminds me in a weird way, Elephant.
Yes.
In that sense, and those kind of films, it's coming back to a point. It tonally, it's a well handled shot and well framed and everything, kind of that sense, but it doesn't suit what has preceded it.
Mm-hmm. It's actually it's what scares me in life and what I try to do. What I want to do, making movies, making horror movies, is like I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
I was going to say it.
And I'm not afraid of monsters.
Does busting make you feel good?
No.
When he's not eating crayons, he's busting some ghosts.
Do you remember Dan Aykroyd gets a blowjob? And his eyes cross. Oh.
Skip that.
Yeah. The thing that scares.
What are you thinking there about Dan Aykroyd getting the blowjob?
Getting the blowjob because his eyes cross and he's like, oh.
38.
The thing that scares me is when
Dan Aykroyd getting the blowjob from a ghost.
Like,
so many questions.
Like, Dan, put the vodka down. Time to get my dick sucked.
That's not how Dan Aykroyd says.
Jim, when is an impression ever on point? What do you mean you're doing them?
True. It's like, as I've already said, this is my lovely wife. No, sorry, no, sorry. Yeah, sorry, go on.
We're on a mission from God.
You know,
Jerry Stiller. He's floated into the studio. I fear when reality takes a southern turn.
Right.
So say you're walking in the street and your mind's just going, I'm going to have eggs for dinner. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And then somebody gets knocked down.
Yeah.
There's that sudden change of tone in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest fear in life. And that's something that I've always wanted to capture. Which is weird because when it happens in movies, it's like fucking Meet Joe Black. He fucking gets knocked down. And you're like, they haven't done that well. But in Clerks, the deleted scene, working in a convenience store and working in a store that has been, being held at knife point or being held at gunpoint, it does change the atmosphere, obviously.
Mm.
And seeing that clip kind of scares me. Don't know it does it well. I know we're fucking. This is the Tangent Boys are back.
The fabulous Tangent Boys.
DOE adverts do it well, right? Let me tell you about my life.
Here, boys, just going out to check the old pigs. Isn't pigs or something? I know that's the guy that's in that one.
The guy that falls through the thing.
Yeah,
into the slurry.
It's just like, not the slurry. There's one about cows. I'm just going to here, lads, just going out to check out cows. Be wary of cows during not lambing season.
Breeding season.
I don't know. I'm not a farmer. I fucking live beside farms in Tyrone, and he gets kicked by the farm or the kids.
The farms become sentient.
The farm's back, and this time it's personal. No, he gets kicked. He gets kicked by a cow, and he's dead. And everyone's always like, "Oh, should have." Or it's like comes up like, "Should have thought twice" or something.
Not getting kicked by a cow.
I don't know, but I agree with you. Or do you know what else? Just on that note, because we're from Northern Ireland, the old ads during the Troubles.
We're fucking
Cats in the cradle and a silver spoon. Just gonna go up this wee flight of stairs here to see the wee son, wish him a happy birthday. It gets minced.
Dad, why are you wearing a phonocab outfit? As a reference, it'll be out of date in fucking 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's alright. He probably hadn't got a gun if he was with on a cab.
Got a Desert Eagle.
Yeah. But yes, and also those DOE ads as well. I remember showing those to people who are not from here, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
it's like, you know, the one where it's like the guy's driving, and he's maybe getting number 39 with a blowjob, and they lose control of the car, and it just rolls, and there's all these wee kids having a wee picnic party.
Oh yes.
And it's just like, boom, they all get minced.
The one where
I love the way I sounded so flippant about that. We're just desensitized.
They just got minced.
Yeah.
The one
you
where
don't see them as much now, though.
I don't think. Well, when was the last time you watched terrestrial television?
Every now and again. I mean, I think the only one I can remember of recent is
The Iron Man with the Eggs.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking because it's in cinemas. I think it's in cinemas. Or there's the one about the water where it's like, oh, don't fuck about when you're driving. That's really what it should say. Don't fuck about when you're driving, and the guy just drives into a lake.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, and then they're all like, have you seen some of the? Have you ever seen some of the shit like not well? Let's not get into a whole debate about the UK, but like the ones in England and Scotland, where it's like, I remember one being particularly shit, where there's a guy sitting down, they're all out at the pub, and they go, "Here, Adam, do you want a wee pint?" "Aye, fuck it." Wait, doesn't actually say, he goes, "I fuck it." So he drinks a pint, and then there's a girl walking in front, and then it's the whole chair.
Yeah.
Like, rams her.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Don't drink and drive." It's like, well, he's just having a pint in a bar. I get what you're trying to do, but it's just stupid.
We want blood.
Yeah. We grew up in a fucking age of, someone formerly from this parish, Matthew Collins, who used to do a much better job hosting this podcast than I did, actually applied once to be in one of those ads. I don't think he was ever successful. If you're still listening, Matt, let us know.
I really see the DOE.
Are you going to pitch one now?
I've been fucking on Twitter for ages, being like, "Can you let me direct a DOE ad? I want to fucking make carnage. I will scare people. I really want to."
How would you do it? Paint the Selma, you've got a couple of minutes here to pitch it now. I love how we went from Kevin Smith to this.
Body to body, funk to funky. Well, no, Jim, you put me on the spot. Right, that's
Jerry Stiller's going to be there.
The handbrake has broken the car. Let's
stop trying to look at the TikTok.
Yes, I suppose it would be that. It'd be like looking on your phone.
Here, mate, look at this on your phone. And just that's one dick. He's like, no one ever does. Goes when you're driving. Here, mate, just put this right in front of the screen. Oh fuck, there's Samantha Mumba. Boom, she's dead.
I suppose you would have to do. It would have to be like,
what? Right, you've got 250 grand. That's the budget I'm giving you.
Right. Okay. It would be like, that's a Hollywood money. It would be like a school bus full of disabled children crossing the road, and the guy's like fucking watching a Pedro Pascal TikTok on his phone, and then he just fucking, because it has to be brutal.
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh no," and like misses the children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But then he drives straight into an orphanage that on the day
misses them all, and you're like, "Oh, thank fuck for that."
on the day
But then,
on the day when they're getting new gas put in, straight into the gas line, explodes.
but
Needles.
thankfully, all the orphanages, they were all on the bus, so there's no one there,
Yeah.
and you're all like going, "Oh, thank fuck! Oh, I can breathe out." And then what?
It unlocks something in the bus driver, and he goes postal and starts fucking punching all the kids to death. Body to body, funk to funky. DOE.
Never ever go postal on a bus. So Kevin Smith.
He
I'm
made
gonna,
me.
right, I'm going to think. So if I was pitching mine, not that I'm a filmmaker at all, I kind of like my idea because I think mine's quite meta.
Mhm.
I think I'd have a guy. He'd be in the car. He'd be listening to this podcast, and fucking shameless plug.
Mm.
Oh, fucking boys. Oh, Jesus, King of Castle Street. That's fucking genius. Got to get the fucking expanded universe out
Yeah.
there. And someone's like, "Here, mate, the fucking thing. Here, do you want to see this wee funny meme about them ones down into Titanic in the submersible?" And you'd be like, "No, show us it." And then just Samantha Mumbas crossing the road and just fucking rams her, and she gets minced. And the body's just kind of, her legs are gone, but she's there.
It's hard for the other. Jim's. He was pretending that she just got rammed, but then looked me dead in the eye and went, "Her legs are gone."
Her legs are gone, Adam. She's just there, and she's rammed up against a wall,
Fucking right.
and the wall pulls back, and it's "Don't drink and drive."
She becomes Samantha Roomba.
Yeah. So DOE, whichever of those ideas you like more,
200 grand.
yeah, I'll take it.
Just saying.
So Kevin Smith's Clerks.
He made me want to make DOE ads.
Yeah. Yes. So send in your suggestions as well, listeners, for DOE.
Yeah. We'll all chip in.
So Kevin Smith's Clerks, just to bring us back on track. Yeah, it's a rough and ready film, and every time you watch it, you do see how rough and ready it is, and how unpolished everything, even the audio at times is like, right, okay. And I wonder, here's a question: do you think a film like Clerks now, in the way the world we live now of streamers and stuff like that, do you think it would be harder for a Kevin Smith? Don't know why I'm doing that with my hands. To get out there, because everyone probably thinks, "Oh, I could be the next Kevin Smith. Oh, that film, I'm going to do that. I could make that film." But I just wonder, and I'm only saying this, and it sounds terrible, but please do continue to send in your submissions, any filmmakers out there. As someone who runs a festival, we see particularly features coming in, and they are very low budget and per sound. There's always something you go, "Well, wish you'd just done that," or the way it's shot, or camera, whatever. All those issues I have been watching, I can see little issues from the way it's been shot with Clerks. The saving grace is the dialogue.
Yeah.
The performances are solid. I don't think there's any amazing performance. I know there might, maybe Jeff Anderson.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
what would
think
say.
Brian O'Halloran is solid as Dante, but I come back to the fact that you don't like him.
Yeah.
I do think I'm going to go with it. Marilyn Gigliotti.
Mhm.
I'm going to say I think she's solid as Veronica, but I know you were not as.
It's the fact that I was saying to you on the behind the scenes. They're like, she got the role because she could cry on demand.
Can you cry in demand?
No, because I took my antidepressants this morning.
Oh.
But here, give me a few days.
I
yeah.
can't cry. Thanks for asking. I can't cry in demand either. Thanks for asking.
Well, Jim, I didn't want to say it and you immediately did it. That would be weird.
No, I'm fine. There, see, footages.
The girl that plays the other girlfriend,
Lisa Spinner.
I think she's a bit shit, and that's probably why she never came back to do any other
No.
of the movies.
Well, is Veronica? It's been that long. Is she in Clerks 2? I know she rolls up at the end of Clerks 3.
She's on Clerks 2, and the Clerks 3 cameo was weird.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
I do love the fact that she was always working at college, always studying at college, wanted to better herself, and she did.
Mhm.
So I suppose there's that sense of, this is the life, Dante, you could have had if you'd let me push you and prod you and get you back into college.
Mhm.
But instead, here you are still doing.
So I suppose, like, Clerks 2 sets it up. Jeff Anderson has a great speech in the end of Clerks 2 that says, like,
Is this when they're in prison?
they're in prison, and he says, like, I love you, and what we always should have been doing is, like, working for ourselves. Like, we don't like working for anybody else. We should work for ourselves. And it kind of sets up Clerks 2 as, like, a bittersweet ending, where it's like, sure, they're working for themselves, but they're back at the start where they began, and it's like, life goes on. And that's a nice ending for those characters, because it's not like Captain America or Iron Man.
But it's a realistic ending for those characters.
It's not like, what's their next adventure going to be?
And I know, I suppose we're throwing, we're kind of haven't even mentioned to an extent, there is the Clerks animated series as well.
Yeah, which is really good.
Because that was kind of Jason Mewes' only little project, wasn't it?
No, it's everybody.
No, but I mean, I think it was Jason Mewes kind of spearheaded that. I could be wrong, or was it? This might not make the cut. Because Clerks, so let's go back. So Clerks 2 was made, if I recall, Jason Mewes cleaned himself up. And that's why they kind of said, right, let's make Clerks 2. Clerks 3 came about for various reasons. They talked about it, and then eventually Kevin and Jeff Anderson made up, and they retooled and made that. We also have the animated series, which you haven't really talked about, which you say you like.
Yes, really good. Again, I had to import the DVD from America.
Same here.
But it is really funny. It's ex-Simpsons writer and Kevin Smith, and they're all working on it, and there's really funny jokes in it and good running jokes. It actually is like a proto, like, Rick and Morty kind of, like, it has that same sense of humor and that same style. But it was cancelled after fucking 6 episodes.
Yeah,
which is a real shame. And then they did Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie. Did you ever see that?
No.
That's fucking dog shit. It's like made in like Flash animation. Because they got popular on YouTube by animating some of the Smod cast podcasts, and Kevin Smith, being a big stoner, was like, well, we could do a full movie. And
we can make money.
It's poo-poo. But Clerks 1, back to that, Jason Mewes is weird in it. Do you feel? Like, because he's not he's
not an actor.
He's not an actor yet, but it's like...
And there's that's big speech, not the big speech, but probably the most dialogue where it's not schmucking. Well, there's not even really much of that. Schmucking weed, that kind of comes through in Mallrats, I think, more of those than this. But he has that speech near the end. And there's a bit, when I was watching it last night, it's like, has he fluffed that line? There's a bit where it looks like he has fluffed the line, but carried on.
Yeah.
And they've just went like, go with it, roll with it. And it's all talking about, again, Randall's problem between, he can't choose between Caitlin and Veronica. And there's a whole, like, if I had because there's something they're talking about, I'm going to go to a bar, I'm going to have some drinks, some smokes, get some, I think he says the phrase bitches or something, get some girls. And it's like, Dad is like, I wouldn't want to hang out with you. I wouldn't want to do anything with that kind of thing. And he's like, oh man, if I had a girlfriend like Veronica who brought me lasagna, I wouldn't be complaining every day. You gotta, is it shit or get off the pot, or is that something?
Yeah,
or is that?
Yeah,
that kind of line. And it does, I can't remember word for word, but there's something when you're watching it, you go, it looks like he has fluffed that line, but just about held it together. And that might have been the best take that they had to go with.
Yeah.
But he's not an actor, so you forgive it. I mean, Kevin Smith literally said, right, I remember he seen him in a community centre somewhere, met him, he was a friend of a friend. I'm like, I want this guy in my film. And there's the drawbacks to that.
In Mallrats, they were going to replace him with Seth Green or Breckin Meyer.
I knew the Seth Green one.
And that would have been like weird multiverse. If Kevin Smith does a multiverse movie where Seth Green plays Jay.
Here's hoping.
I shouldn't be giving him ideas. Although Kevin Smith recently, have you seen anything about him recently? He stopped smoking weed.
I haven't heard this.
He came out and talked about past traumas he's had with...
I heard him talk about that.
Sexual abuse. And he's kind of not cleaned himself up, but it's kind of as if it's like he's entered a new stage of his life where he's clean-headed and he's vegan. And
I knew he was vegan because he's lost all the weight since the heart attack and literally half a person. you know, I feel like he should motivate me to get back into my fitness regime as I sat here just stroking my stomach. But, I mean, I am pleased that he's cleaned himself up.
Yeah.
It's just what that then will relate to in his cinematic output and what he's going to do. Will he have that huge passion? Because I have to admit, like, the Smodcast and stuff, I can dabble with it for a little bit. Probably like listeners like this podcast will maybe listen for 10 minutes and go, what the fuck are they talking about DOE for? I'm here to want them to talk about fucking the movie and get bored and maybe go away off and do it. And then I'll maybe 6 or so months, I'll go, I've nothing to listen to. Oh, well, listen to, you know, Fat Man on Batman or listen to the Smodcast. It's always with Mosier.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of when he's with anyone else.
No, because they have a good chemistry.
Yeah.
And Scott Mosier is a really funny guy. It's a real shame that he never made anything. He works for Illumination now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he directed or co-directed Freebirds. Do you remember that movie? It was like fucking about 2 turkeys that escaped on Thanksgiving or whatever. And it would have been interesting to see, you know, whenever Ricky Gervais and
Steve Merchant
broke up, and you kind of got to see what each one would do without the other. And it's with Emmons, they lost. I always felt like Gervais lost his heart, but he really tries to push it. If you watch Derek or Afterlife,
although I do like Afterlife,
but it's manipulative in the sense of his wife died and he's depressed.
Stick on the video again.
Yeah, he's went for the common denominator of something that is already sad. And Derek is like, oh, well, he's playing a disabled man, you know, that won't get every benefit in life that everybody else does.
Derek, I was less a fan of. I liked what it was trying to do, and it was that key thing that Gervais always said: the character of Derek is never the butt of the jokes; it's the people around him. But it's that sense, and it's not being woke and modern. It's still kind of going back to the kind of Rain Man kind of thing. It's like you're given that performance, which is problematic. But I would say, I'll not lie, I had to go on IMDb and quickly look up the name of the family to make sure I got it right. But Steve Merchant, I quite like fighting with the family.
Yeah.
Is it fighting with the family?
Yeah, about
wrestling.
About the wrestler Paige.
Yeah. But not her porno.
Oh, I've watched that a few times.
39. No, I think we're at 30 to 40. I hope people are at least getting this reference.
Oh, fuck, that'd be weird with the word. Yeah, so whenever like Scott Mosier kind of split from Kevin Smith, it was after Clerks 2, and he made stuff like Cop Out and I know, and what else? What was between Cop Out and Red State, or was there nothing? Well, Red State, we've mentioned it before, is quite good. It's because it's like well written, and you have Michael Parks delivering dialogue with gusto that really makes it feel like, because Michael Parks is a Tarantino guy, you know, he's bringing that energy to it, and
he's amazing in Red State.
I don't know if
I don't think it worked coming back to Tusk. I don't know if it. I think it's great in kind of the energy he brings in Tusk, but it's better suited and probably more terrifying in Red State.
Yeah, because it's more based in a reality as well.
Because I love how Red State starts. It's the fact, and they're podcasters, and they're going off, and it starts very much because it's quite clever from Kevin Smith. It's all the dialogue with them at the start. It's very on the nose Kevin Smith, and then it just descends into something else, and then you will not predict. Well, it's not that it ends. It's like it's the loud noise, and you have John Goodman as the cop, isn't he?
John Goodman and Kevin Pollak.
Yeah, they're the cops, and then it's like, is it the noise of the or what is it? Drum.
The sirens of
or is it just a coincidence?
Yeah,
and I think it's left very much for you. It's been a while since I've seen Red State, but it's left for you to decide, if I recall.
But then also ends on a butt raping joke in jail.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, come on, Kevin, please.
That's what Kevin does. Because there's a couple of things I will say. I mean, Kevin Smith, when you look at him and his back catalogue as a filmmaker, it's very much similar to John Carpenter in that sense of someone who kind of got chewed up a little bit by the studios and then reacted to that and kind of went off and did his own projects. Because I think like Clerks, they were independently funded and kickstarted. I think Clerks 3 definitely was. I don't know about Jen. I think Jen Silent Bob reboot possibly as well. I don't think Red State was. Red State was not a studio picture.
No, that was his own money. Plus, it was like if you bought tickets to his live show, wasn't it?
Yes, that was it.
Then it kind of it went into the movie, and then you were a backer on the movie.
So it's very similar in that sense of Carpenter with stuff like Mars. What do you call it? Escape.
Ghost of Mars?
Not Ghost of Mars. Oh, Ghost of Mars, yes. I'm thinking of, what's the one I'm thinking of? Escape
from LA? Escape from New York?
No. There was another terrible film about Jupiter I'm thinking of, which is not Ghost of Mars. Or Mars. I don't know. Yes. A bit like Kevin Smith.
Vampires of Mars?
No. I'll find it. I think Val Kilmer's in it. I remember going to see it, and it's terrible. I actually went to see it twice, I think. Or no, I watched it in the cinema and then watched it one night. It was on TV, and it's like, this is a pile of shite. I think Val Kilmer's in it. But anyway, yes, a bit like John Carpenter with Ghosts of Mars, which is a film I kind of have a soft spot for, but it's not very good.
No.
And that was his last big studio film. And you got a sense with Carpenter, he was given all this money to work with and didn't really know what to do. He might, if John was here, he might dispute that and say it was studio intervention, but I think he works better with a lot less money. And like, do we need this as an efficient filmmaker? Do we need this X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah? Probably not. Do we need a whole sequence where it's a terrible, I don't think it's a CGI train. I think in Ghosts of Mars, there's a whole sequence with a train. And it's like, it just looks pretty ropey. It's better than The Flash, anything they did. But Carpenter was someone, and then I don't think The Ward, which I love, again, it's a really underrated John Carpenter film. I don't think it's fantastic, but it's underrated. I don't think that was a studio picture. I think that was independently financed kind of thing, and then he was like, right, I'm done.
Yeah.
It didn't have an audience. But coming back to the point you were making, I was just looking there as well, just wanted to remind myself about partners like Chris Nolan, who we've talked about, I think was in this pod or was in the previous, I think it was in the previous one. It's like talking about partnerships like Chris Nolan. I think he needs like David S. Goyer and Jonathan Nolan to kind of bring out the best of him. I think when it's the more recent I know Oppenheimer hasn't been released yet as we record, probably will be out by the time this is out, but they've lost a little bit of the Nolan magic, and I think it's because they need those people involved.
Yeah. Where do you think Kevin Smith stands against his contemporaries? Because, like I said, you have people like Jim Jarmusch, even Richard Linklater, because Kevin Smith took inspiration from Linklater's Slacker.
Yeah.
But then you've Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino and stuff, and you know all these filmmakers that came about in the 90s. And Rodriguez released a movie last month, fucking called Hypnotic with Ben Affleck. Nobody watched that movie.
Did you watch it?
No.
I didn't realize it was in the cinema. Because we were down looking at, because we have Omniplex cards, other cinemas are available, and just because Omniplex is literally on our doorstep in Lisburn, I was like, oh, Hypnotic? I didn't even know this was, I thought it was going straight to streamers, and it's probably should have.
Yeah.
Where do I rate Kevin Smith within? I think there was a lot of potential there. I think other filmmakers have definitely went on and had a bigger influence, but you can't understate the fact that I would say Kevin Smith has influenced just as many filmmakers as those other filmmakers will have went on to have more successful careers, probably in terms of awards, box office return, notoriety. Although I would probably counter that Kevin Smith is a well-known filmmaker. Probably he's entered pop culture himself. I mean, his Q&A panels, his Q&A sessions and panels at Comic-Con are a thing of legend now.
Yeah.
I think he's become a pop culture icon in himself as opposed to Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, because everyone will go and say, oh, well, what does Kevin Smith think of The Flash? What does Kevin Smith think of the latest announcements for Batman? I remember Zack Snyder very much made a conscious effort to have him on board when they announced Batfleck. And when they announced kind of like they were looking at the costumes and stuff, I remember they made this big beeline to say like, what does Kevin Smith think of this? But whilst he might not have had the same success of like a filmmaker like Linklater, who I love, even when Linklater isn't at his best, I still will go and see his films. Mm-hmm. Or like recently, just comes out a couple of weeks ago, Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. Not his best film, but I will make a conscious effort to go see it, and I still enjoy watching those films on the big screen. You can't probably dispute on your evidence in yourself. You've been inspired by Kevin Smith to become a filmmaker, because what he did with Clerks was strip all the allure and the mystique away from that. It was the big industries that you needed to go off and do this and that, and to be a film student, and you need to have millions of pounds behind you to make your project. He kind of helped democratize cinema, and probably coming back, I think I asked you this point, and I never let you, we went off on a tangent about DOA, the fact that would a Kevin Smith now have the same notoriety in the world that we live in now, where you can put stuff on YouTube, Vimeo, one for the kids, TikTok, etc. You can put everything, you can live stream it on Facebook, whatever. It's never been easier to get your content out there. Mm. But I also think now, I think if you had a Kevin Smith now, my fear is they would be drowned out, because there's just so much content out there.
Yeah.
Right now. Right at the right time, back in 94, taking that gamble, taking the film to Sundance, the notoriety that came from that. Fair plays, he's had an amazing career in his own right and has achieved things, probably looking back at 94, he did not think. He probably felt, and I don't say this word, it's not the right way to, he probably felt he was entitled to. It's probably not the way of putting it, but he deserved it. Yeah. He has deserved it, and he has got a career from it. The frustration is thing, you look at something, but how many times, football, how many times you see a young up-and-coming footballer and you go, this guy's going to be the next greatest footballer of all time, going to change the world. Doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
That's not to say that person hasn't had an amazing career in their own right. I think Kevin Smith has had an amazing career. I look at it, but who am I to judge? Go, oh, I wish you'd done this or done that, or I wish you'd go back and make another Dogma, or maybe go back and make another Jersey Girl just without J-Lo, or something else instead of the film. The easy things. It seems now, for me, it's like, I could do this, or I could do Clerks 3.
Yeah.
I could do this, or I could do Mallrats 2. Take a gamble and interest me as a filmmaker. But hey, this is me. I'm 40-year-old Jim McLean from Belfast. Does Kevin Smith really give a fuck what I think? Probably not. I love him as a filmmaker, always will. But there'll always be that sense of, do you still interest me as a filmmaker right now? I'm intrigued, but not interested by Moose Jaws. I don't know if did that answer the question that you asked me. What was the question you asked me?
You asked me a question.
Oh, did I?
Would there be a new Kevin Smith now?
Yeah. Or someone of that style, of some of that kind of emerging through all this noise that we have through content now, to show that it doesn't have to be The Flash, Indiana Jones. It can be something made for absolutely and can get global notoriety.
Well, I think
the next Adam Neeson movie.
I think that
Slay 2. This time it's personal.
Don't have to bring up Slay.
Award-winning film.
Made in an afternoon. You can really tell. I think that Kevin Smith had the luxury of, not growing up in an era where people's opinions can be said on their phone and put straight into the air. So movie makers now, especially auteur movie makers now, when they're given commentary, it's often commentary on social aspects rather than pop culture. It's either that or it's something deeply personal, which is something that, you know, Linklater kind of was the king of, because he wasn't a guy that was like, do you like fucking Elf or Alf? So some filmmakers these days are like Jordan Peele. Even though he's a bigger budget guy, you know, he has the luxury of, you know, being a successful comedian for so he was able to get the studios behind it. But like stuff like Us and Get Out is more commentary on the world we live in, not exactly the content of the world, but how we are as humans. And other,
do we really want to look at the content we consume now as society?
Not really, you
No.
know, like having conversations about construction workers on the Death Star was funny back in the day, but now every person with a TikTok thinks they're a comedian, and every person can have that observational comedians.
Where can people follow you on TikTok, Adam?
I have a TikTok, but it's really just for fucking memes.
Yeah. I have posted one video on my TikTok account since I've had it for about a year.
Uh-huh.
And it's a cat. It's that cat that kind of floated in the sky for a little bit. I went up Stormont one day with my wife, and we literally, I just like, oh, this would be really funny. I put is it Maxwell, the floating cat?
Yeah.
I put that over Stormont. Over 1,000 views.
Fuck yeah.
It's like, I've broke the internet. I'm done. That's it. I'm never going to top that. So all mine now is literally like you. It's like, oh, that's funny. Reshare. That's funny. Yeah.
But like, you know, this is just me having to go with TikTokers. But everybody can have their opinion instantly, and it's going to take someone. I don't even know if it's possible. I don't even know if it's possible for someone to come out and make commentary on pop culture that's biting enough to be picked up by pop culture, because it's so cannibalistic at the minute, where you have TV shows like is it called Two of Us? It's on HBO Max, and there was an episode like last week where it was a Disney Plus meeting, and they unveil a poster, and it's like meant to be Hotel Transylvania. Have you seen this clip? I'll send it to you. And there's a blob, right? He's called like Globby, right? And the Disney executive goes, Globby is our first outright gay character we have ever put in a movie. And the guy's like, What do you mean? And it's like, it's gonna be groundbreaking. You're gonna see him with another glob in bed. And the guy's like, what is this? And it's commentary like that, you know, is on that Kevin Smith level of reaching through, cutting through all of the fucking bullshit of everything else. But you're getting stuff like that on TikTok, and there's the TikToks that hit, and because they reach a level that Kevin Smith reached in '94, you know, that gained popularity. But people don't want to sit through movies like that anymore, I do not think. And if they do, it's just going to get clipped and put on TikTok anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were to clip Clerks up and be like, oh, Salsa Shark, and stuff like that, people might find it funny, but then people don't take the stuff like the Silent Bob speech. Oh, not everybody brings you lasagna. There's the heart in that I think Smith lost over the years. You know, you get it in.
Well, I think, do you know what it is? And I know we've talked for nearly an hour and a half, so we will have to wrap it up. And probably, again, we've talked about 10 minutes of Clerks. It's that sense that the sentiment seemed genuine. It's the fact that, yes, you've got this character in Dante who's angry at everything that the world has offered him, but yet he has all the opportunities there for himself. He feels stuck. He feels, you know, that the world is passing him by. But yeah, as Randall throws up, it's like, you've all the opportunities. You could have done this, you could have done that, but here you are working at a convenience store. Fuck it. You know, just stop moaning about it and just get on with it. The sentiment now in some of Smith's later stuff, it feels false. It feels phony. It's kind of like Disney sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
I'll counter that by saying, I mean, coming back to that scene, I sound like I'm obsessed with it, that Jay and Silent Bob reboot, the bit with Kevin Smith, or the bit with Ben Affleck talking about, well, Ben Affleck's character from Chasing Amy, talking about that seemed genuine,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, you know, all the stuff where now he feels he has to put, I mean, you like the sentiment, the fact that he wants to put his daughter front and center, Harley, into films, but I don't particularly rate her as an actress. I think
No.
she's solid. I don't think she's amazing. But anytime you stiffen the interest, like the stuff with her and Jay in Jay and Silent Bob reboot is so phony and false, and it's just like, it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
It's like recently, a couple of weeks ago, No Hard Feelings was out with Jennifer Lawrence, and that there was a film that was completely mismarketed. It was sold as kind of another gross out kind of comedy, but I hate the phrase, it is more of a dramedy. And its sense of sentiment, I don't know if you've seen it or not yet,
Not yet.
but the sentiment that's there, it's just so, it's honkingly obvious from about half an hour into the film, and then it's just like, oh, then everything was wrapped up nice and neatly in a little bow. Life's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of thing, like the finale of Clerks, everything's not wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow. There's sentiment there, but okay, Dante's not shot and dead.
Yeah.
But he's still like his next day is going to be probably the same.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe he was meant to be there that day, but he's still going to be the same person the next day, the day after that, until finally he does get shot, or until he finally just has to watch Clerks and Clerks 2
On his deathbed.
on his deathbed in a really nice cinema, I must say. But the sentiment is there and honest, but yet that doesn't mean Dante's going to be a better person. It's not going to be like A Christmas Carol with Michael Caine. He's not going to wake up tomorrow. What day is it, boy? Get me the largest goose. Let's go round to little tiny Tim's house. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
It's that sense that it feels genuine when it's thrown in. It doesn't just go, oh, these characters are awful, let's throw this little line in here. Even if you have someone like Jay, who's pretty much of a dick, he's a drug dealing dick, even if he can be, it's so honkingly obvious to him, you know, what the fuck are you complaining about, Dante?
Aye.
Just get on with it.
Yeah. It is one of those things that is missing from a lot of cinema. Like, take Reservoir Dogs, you know what I mean? Like, same year, his contemporary filmmaker, you know, Quentin Tarantino. It's an interesting plot, but it's also a movie that ends, and it's not like, and fucking Mr. Orange saved today. It had a bit of balls to, you know, create a story that wasn't clean and tidy, like you say. Like, there was no clean wrap ups, and
because life's not like that, Adam.
no, and Clerks is definitely a slice of life, filmmaking, and Clerks 2 kind of does exactly what you're saying. Like, you know, when they buy the shop again, and the camera puts back and it goes into black and white, and they have that face like, oh well, this is life now. That is a nice ending, because it is what you're saying. It is like, well, the next day they'll just work in that shop again.
Yeah.
Whereas in Clerks 3, Smith's most recent thing, he has to wrap it up in a, I'm going to spoil it, I don't give a fuck. Dante dies.
I think I've already spoiled that quite a few through this pod.
Dante dies, and Randall is all still working in the shop, and then like his friends, you know,
Who are terrible actors.
oh, terrible actors. Like, they're like, oh, we're all having fun.
And all the jokes about, isn't there non-binary jokes, or what is it? I can't remember. I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but that's how forgettable the film is. It's not about non-binary. It's Satan. Isn't that what it is? And all those jokes are just so, not even on the nose, but not funny, but just laboured. And it's like you keep repeating the same joke. It wasn't that funny. You might have got a slight laugh the first time, but it's definitely not funny by the umpteenth time. I didn't stick around for it. Maybe you did. But Darren, who was on the TV show talking about Clerks 3, because literally when it finished, and I think it's on Prime, so I can maybe go back and rewatch it. I just need to re-sign up for Prime because I've kind of had a bit of a cull recently. Apparently Smith gives a great kind of chat over the closing credits. And it's a bit like with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, where he pops up in the closing credits of that film, and you go, oh, I kind of love Kevin Smith again. I love Kevin Smith again because he's kind of talking about what these films mean to him and what these characters mean to him, and how through his own life experiences and kind of the fact that people have criticised him for making the career choices he has. And you go, oh yeah, I kind of get Kevin Smith. That's all right. Go make Mallrats 2. And you're like, but no, during the hour and a half you fucking sat through that film, Jim, you fucking hated it.
Aye.
And although I cried at the end of Clerks 3, I'm not ashamed to say, but all that sentiment and all that emotional attachment was there from Clerks.
100%.
Not from Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, or not from that film. Because the whole stuff in Clerks 3 where Randall's in the hospital with the doctor and he's talking about having a tiny dick, it's like, it's all right. I'll get one laugh, but those are the jokes. If those are the best jokes you can construct, I don't know, Kevin.
Yeah, it is like I cried as well at the end of Clerks 3, and it was sort of a, it was sort of a. Let's wrap this back round to the start of the podcast. I was crying because it was my introduction to proper film, and it was kind of it's been 15 years, and I have good memories of that movie, seeing that movie for the first time, the same way that Dante, the character, had good memories of living that life, you know? So Clerks 3, like you say, ends with like a cryptocurrency fucking joke that clean wraps it up.
Yeah.
And then over the credits, he's talking, being like, "Oh, fucking thing," and it kind of sets the movie apart from the filmmaker in the sense that Kevin Smith isn't a filmmaker anymore. He is a personality on his own, and it almost feels as if, like, imagine you watched the movie and then whenever you left the theater, Kevin Smith was stood there and he's like, "What do you think?" And you don't want to be like, "Oh, it's fucking shit, Kevin." You're kind of like, "Yeah, I'm
good, give me, it was alright."
Cried at the end or something, Kevin. Yeah. So as
would you have cried more if instead of lovely Rosario Dawson popping up, you'd have had the old guy Clerks 1 who died in the bathroom? Like, Kevin, if you're listening, that would have been fab. I'm not sure, was it Al Berkovich? I've got it, well, I'm going to pretend it's like Al Berkovich, I think, is the actor.
Well, surely he's dead in real life.
I don't know.
He has to be, because he was about fucking...
Doesn't say here. He's only known for one role, Old Man in Clerks.
Old Man with Erection.
Yeah, I fucking love that bit. And just was like, I kept saying this, how many times does he go back? It's like, have you got any of the because he's kind of doing, what do you call the old Jewish comedian that was in Simpsons? Jackie Mason. He comes across, and I was like, is that Jackie Mason or something like that doing that? And I went on, it's like, no, because he's like, his son, can he use the toilet? It's like, yeah, nobody comes back. What kind of shitter roll have you got? Is it the hard stuff or the good stuff? And the soft's like, oh, it's hard. It's like, can I take the good stuff? And then it's just coming back. It's like, can I get something to read? Give me one of the pornos. No, not that one. Another one. They've got great big titties. And it just, every time it makes me laugh because it's just like there's enough time. He goes off camera and then comes back. And I just think, no, the ones that I was howling last night. It's like the one from the bottom, they've got the great big titties. And then you've got that, but I think that would have been a better ending.
I think
because it's weird, like Rosario Dawson. I mean, as much as I love her, I think she's lovely in every possible way, and I'm sure her bum smells like Toblerone. But
I want to fucking rip it out like a Beyblade.
But at the same time, to have that much emotional, coming back to what we talked in the previous pod with The Flash, it's like Henry Cavill, like to have that much emotional attachment to that character from Clerks 2, and then in Clerks 3, she's dead. Spoiler, sorry. Yeah. She was a car crash, I think, wasn't it? She was killed.
Yeah, it's like we had a baby, and the next day
Yeah.
died in a car crash. You're like, fucking what?
But again, coming back to those little moments of sentiment that I think feel not genuine, but it comes from a personal place from Kevin Smith. It's like that scene, is it a dream sequence? Where I think he's visiting her grave,
Yes.
and then he imagines
She's
her there.
Mm.
There's I've made this point already. There's always little bits within Kevin Smith movies where you go, there's the wee fucking little bits of dialogue that you could probably do in your sleep. It's just a shame that what you pack around it is a lot of jokes about my baby dick and all this kind of stuff. Fart jokes will always be funny, but used in the correct.
I think it's a good, the podcast's been on for an hour and 40 minutes now.
Yeah.
I think it's a good indication to the listeners that
This podcast probably is longer than Clerks.
it probably is, yeah. I think it's
Well, it is longer unless when we edit this down. At this moment, as we record, we have been talking about this film longer than we could have watched Clerks. That says everything you need to know about the band of flicks more than pixels on a screen.
I think that what was I going to say? Sorry. Yeah, that's a good indication to the listener that whenever we talk about Clerks 1, we're laughing.
Yeah.
Great big titties. Any moment we're talking about is great, and any of the emotional moments we're talking about, we feel that emotion. And anytime I bring up Clerks 2 or 3, you audibly say, ugh.
I need to go back and rewatch Clerks 2. I genuinely do. It's been that long. Clerks 3, it's just because it's so fresh in my head. That was why I came in and said, right, I need last night. I was thinking about it, I've seen Clerks so many times. You know what? I need to go back and rewatch it because my last Kevin Smith film and my last experience of the View Askew universe and with with Dante, my last experience with Dante and Randall was Clerks 3, which was really underwhelming. So going back, and I come back, I know we're coming full circle. It's all the things you said about why it's more than pixels on a screen. It's the energy, the hunger of a filmmaker wanting to make his picture that he wanted to make. The dialogue is snappy, genuine, and honest. In the same way, people go on about Quentin Tarantino, about, the un royale with cheese and kind of stuff in Pulp Fiction, how he can do the little kind of interchanges between stuff. Kevin Smith does that effortlessly, but doesn't just use it as padding for him. That's the film. And that's the beauty of Clerks and why to throw this film in when we're wrapping things up. Anytime I think of Clerks or watch Clerks now, the film, I think it was out a year or 2 years after, it's like stuff like Kids, which I'm not a massive fan of. It was a film I remember when I was younger. Everyone was kind of talking about Kids. Not just Kids generally, but the movie Kids. They were always talking about that film. And I never seen it at the time, then watch it later, and it's like, really? This is kind of what all the hullabaloo. It's an interesting film in its own right, but give me Clerks in the same way about this kind of the sense of youth. Capturing that in a little bottle. Clerks does a much better job of it. A more relatable job of it anyway, for me, than Kids does.
I think even Noah Baumbach's Kicking and Screaming is like that similar tone. Like people of a certain age trying to figure out life. And it's not Noah Baumbach, good movie maker, obviously, but he didn't have that comedic edge that Smith did.
No.
It's a different sense of humor. And Smith has become a personality in his own, and when you listen to his podcast, the humor from Clerks is still there in his podcasts.
Yeah.
Just not in his writing anymore. And it's a shame, obviously, but he's never going to come out and, like, Time magazine, I think it was in 99, called Smith the new Scorsese. And Jim just made a face. And it's like he was never going to be that.
He's not that type of filmmaker.
No, he's never going to bring up fucking Truffaut or anybody in the interview. Do you know what I mean? He's going to bring up Landis. He's going to bring up fucking
Batman,
Harold Ramis. All these movies. He's going to be like, my favorite movies is Stripes. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to fucking name some French New Wave movie.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You can go get that influence from other filmmakers. And I honestly wish now that Smith has entered a new era, and he's not high anymore or anything. I kind of wish he would become like a new film historian, where he champions movies. You know, we have this whole thing with fucking TCM at the minute.
Where he's rocking up in King of Castle Street.
Kevin, come on now, you got 50 quid with your name on it.
Yeah. I don't know where all this money's going on. I don't actually know if it's legal tender. Netflix assured me it's legal tender. But when you know it's for motion picture use only, you know it's good. I know technically, I think what we'll do is we'll not call it a series or a sitcom. It's a limited event, or what is it the way they phrase that now?
Is it a limited event? I don't know what it's called.
So it's be like 6-episode run. I think that's all we're going to afford to kind of get all these stars lined up for King of Castle Street. And now we're having Kevin Smith popping up.
Well, we've named a few directors that are going to pop up now. Christopher Nolan's going to turn up, and Andy Muschietti. Stole the boys.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah.
I think we should start to... Yeah, I think after nearly an hour and a half of a podcast that's now longer than the movie we're discussing, I think this only ever happened once before when the lovely Victoria Brown and I discussed the Beauty and the Beast, Belle's Magical Christmas, which is like 45 minutes long. We talked for an hour and a half about that film.
But just to finish my point, and then that'll be me done.
Will it though?
Absolutely not. I could talk for ages. Smith, like in this new era, would he become the new Scorsese? And
no, probably not. But why look to be the new Scorsese? Just be the next Kevin Smith, or not? No, sorry. Why not be yourself? I guess that's my, because weirdly, what was it? I'm going to get this quote wrong. I was listening to an interview the other day on Radio Ulster with Daniel O'Donnell.
Oh,
and Daniel O'Donnell said, "There's always room for another you, but not another me."
Was he talking about sheep?
No, he was. I thought I was listening to it. I was like, "Oh yes," because do you know what? I've become a weird man. See, post lockdown and probably post the passing of my dad, people like Hugo Duncan and Daniel O'Donnell no longer annoy me in the sense that if I was like Dante in Clerks and I went, "Oh, what wankers, what wankers," and I go, "You know what? Fuck it, they're off doing their own thing. They make people happy. They are no way trying to fucking take over the world, invade Ukraine, fucking spread fake news, all the stuff, etc. that Donald Trump has done. Perfect. If they're horrible people in real life, that's fine. This podcast hasn't aged well." But I was listening to it and he was talking about it, and I forget what the interview or context was. It was like talking about singers or advice, people coming through. And he said, look, there's always going to be space for you to be the best you can be and the next you, but not, it's already crowded. If you want to be the next Daniel O'Donnell, you already got a Daniel O'Donnell. It's a bit crowded there.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, it was good. So I'm never that big fan of it because I always want to hear what's the next unique voice, and rather than Brandon putting Kevin Smith as the next this or next that, just be Kevin Smith and let's hear what Kevin Smith has to say. It's just that Kevin Smith in the last few years hasn't interested me because he has become pop culture Kevin Smith as opposed to filmmaker Kevin Smith, and the film output, the cinematic output, has been mixed. I know it's great that he's moving away from the I know it's great that he's moving away from the View Askew universe to an extent and doing all these the kind of Canadian horror trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I sit with bated breath to see what Moose Jaws will be. I genuinely hope, it's like Christmas Eve. You always hope you're going to get the Mega Drive, the Super Nintendo. You're like, yes, this is going to be the year. I'm 40 years old. I'm finally going to get it. And instead, someone gets you a Master Drive. And you're, oh, thanks, Mum. I'll just play Alex the Kid instead of fucking Super Mario World. Thanks, Mum. Just what I wanted. That's the way I feel about the next Kevin Smith film when it's coming out. It's like, I hope, and I've been let down. And I know there's people who go, oh, it's fine. I'd rather have another Kevin Smith film than not another Kevin Smith film. But it's still 50 of my motion picture dollars I have to spend to pay your movie. Interest me.
Yeah.
That's my kind of thing. Clerks is a film, even now, nearly 30 years on 40?
Yeah, 30 year.
Yeah, near 30 years on, still interests me. And I can see why that filmmaker, I can see what film would influence a filmmaker like you, or someone like you when you were 14 to become a filmmaker. I can see showing that to a film to a 16, 17-year-old now would go, well, I could make that.
Mhm.
I could make that type of film. That's its legacy. It's that point I made earlier about democratizing cinema and making cinema an aspirational reach for a lot of people. Films like Clerks played a big role in that.
Mhm.
And also showing you writing about what you know is not writing about what you know, and just writing dialogue about people talking is not a bad thing. It doesn't need to be, I think you mentioned in this pod, it's the and then. Dialogue exists not just to move plot along.
Yeah.
It can be there and serve a purpose. So I'll always hold a candle to Kevin Smith. He doesn't interest me as much as a filmmaker now, but the next Kevin Smith film could be Christmas Day, and I could get that Super Nintendo finally at 41.
Yay.
So I think on that note, unless there's anything, Adam, you want to throw out just before we go and wrap up this pod and go watch Clerks 3 again?
I feel like if I start another tangent, I'll be here for another 45 minutes.
Yeah, you can see even when the enthusiasm from Adam is waning for a tangent, a digression, a giggle. I mentioned, I put up a sign there, listeners. I wrote in a bit of paper, shall we talk about King of Castle Street? Adam just went, no. No, he shook his head. He's like, Jim, I've got places to be and people to talk. So look, I think we can both agree Clerks is more than pixels on a screen.
100%.
And it's a great choice.
Can I actually say just a small thing before you finish?
Okay.
To any young filmmaker that is listening, like, say if you're 14, 15, 16...
Don't make a DOE ad. Adam has that
Fuck
market.
off. That's my job. If you're listening to this, I hope that this is your Empire magazine before you go on holiday. I hope this is your entry point. You've listened to us talk shit enough, but I hope this is your...
I'd be really weird if 14-year-olds were listening to us.
I listened to weird things whenever I was 14. You know what I
True.
mean? You know what I mean? Because, like, there's
Oh, the way you said you didn't want to go down a tangent, we fucking went down a tangent. We've fucking fallen down the well.
Here we go.
We're down there. Buffalo Bill has chucked us down.
Put a lotion in the basket. Filmmakers in Northern Ireland, and I know there's a lot of young people that want to make film, and
Yep.
I'm sure they listen to this podcast. You know what I mean? There isn't many podcasts in Northern Ireland that talk specifically about film, and this
And isn't by comedians.
well, comedians, I put in brackets. This is me being fucking super nice to you, Jim. Banterflix is a good outlet for people in Northern Ireland to talk to Northern Irish people about film, you know, and
King of Castle Street.
and the King of Castle Street.
See, this is where the thing is where you'll realise, Adam, see if anyone starts to praise me, it's like, right, bring it down, fart joke.
And the thing is, I'm going to be like, I hope this is the podcast where the King of Castle Street is the
Yeah,
guy.
see how I wrecked that, yeah.
This is a good podcast for young people, and I know you have to listen to an hour and a half of us talking bullshit for me to
An hour and a half's being generous.
make a poignant note. But I hope
We're
this.
nearly at 2 hours now.
I hope this good. 4 more hours. I hope this is a podcast that will, you know, take my advice as a guy that's been in your position. Go out and find.
Why have you become an old man in the room?
Fuck, I know. Go out and find.
Why have you become so old in the space of seconds?
I feel my bones crumbling. Go out and
Why have you become Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan? Hot chocolate? I will, Tom. I will. Hot chocolate. That's who you've become.
I know.
It's like poor old Matt Damon. All that responsibility. Make it worth it.
Just young filmmakers. I'm not going to look at you, Jim. Young filmmakers, go out and find a director. It doesn't have to be Kevin Smith. He spoke to me at a certain age, at a certain time. You know, that Jim's still laugh.
I don't know why I was going to laugh. I just imagine Kevin Smith
Talking to me? Don't.
Do you want to picture him just in school? And Kevin Smith just comes in and just like, what's up, Adam? Hi, Kevin Smith. That's it.
You might know me from previous features.
He didn't say anything about it. He didn't go and judge your films or anything. He just was like, hi, Adam.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. What's up?
Helen Baldwin.
Sorry.
Find a director that you like. Try and find first-time directors that you like, people that really speak to you, and your sensibilities. Don't, if you're a young filmmaker and you want to be Martin Scorsese, start with Mean Streets. Don't start with Goodfellas.
Or The Departed.
Or The Departed. Go back and learn your film history, but find somebody you can connect to on a soulful basis that will be your rock that you can always come back to.
Not Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And Clerks, to tie it all back, has been a rock for me. It's been there in several moments in my life whenever I've needed it, whenever I've needed inspiration. I've went back and watched documentaries, and I've heard Kevin Smith tell the story so many times of how he made Clerks, and it's never going to get old.
Yeah.
And I hope that, fucking knock on wood, I never say I hope, I always say I will. When I make a movie, I want my story to influence other people from Belfast to go out and make something, and Clerks is the start point for me, and hopefully my movie, when I make it, is a start point for somebody else. But it's always, film history is important if you want to be in the business. You guys can't look at The Flash, even if you're 14, you think it's the most amazing movie in the world.
I don't even think a 14-year-old thinks it's the most amazing film in the world.
You'll learn that even like 15-year-olds that begrudgingly go see The Flash and think they know a lot.
I love the way a 14-year-old thinks it's the best film ever, and a 15-year-old is like begrudgingly.
When your balls drop, you really you really think of new things. You might begrudgingly go see it and think that was the worst movie in the world, but really think why. Why was it bad? Why was it good? Look at these old movies and think, why is Clerks 1 good and Clerks 3 bad? They're by the film's same writer and director, the same man, and who's lived a life that really should have made Clerks 3 more poignant than it is. But take that with you and let that learn a lesson to young filmmakers. I'm rambling now, but
the 16-year-old listener.
If you see me on the street,
there's 16. They started 14, the 16 at the end of this podcast.
If you see me on the street, come up and
just go, hey,
recommend
hot chocolate.
Tell me what movie you love at the minute, because even if I don't like it, I'm glad you love something, and I love you.
Even if they like The Flash.
If you love The Flash, that's fine. I like shit films. I
like shit films.
I like Clerks too.
I'm not going to say Clerks 2 is shit because I haven't seen it in so long. But anyway, look, I think we will wrap this pod up. You were threatening to get deep and meaningful. I actually don't think you threatened, Adam. I think you got deep and meaningful.
I'm a silly man.
Mm-hmm.
It's this arc.
Oh fuck! Here we go down another time.
No. This arc of the podcast has been me being Randall.
Yeah.
Of me being a silly man, and at the end of the podcast, giving a deep and meaningful
See what he's
conversation.
doing, listeners. See what he's doing.
It's almost as if I'm some sort of storyteller. Come rubbing nips, Jim.
There we go. I'm going to go and rub Adam's nips.
Yes.
And we're going to go and have a coffee. So thank you very much for listening. We will be back with another podcast. Or if you're only listening to this for the first time, go back and find our complete back catalogue. There's previous episodes with Adam where he's not getting deep and meaningful. He's just being outright silly, which is why I love both deep and meaningful Adam and silly Adam. And loads of other contributors in the podcast in the past. And if you'd like to get involved, drop us an email. And thanks for listening. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Jim.
And we'll be back soon with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.